Yes, of course. Let's see something here.
I just need to have. All right, hold on. Hold on a second.
I'm going to just run a little ad while you're doing that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Living if you're already dead. It's not worth saying if it's already said. Even if it all goes over your head. Believe it if you want to. So keep your eyes on the road and your head in the stars. Follow it down the rabbit hole just a little while longer. You can change anything if you want to. Sing it like ooh, if you want to. Sing it like ooh, if you want to.
We have commercials now. John, your name is John. How do you pronounce John? John, because I have the spelling on the invite. John Dulele or John Vlastimil?
Sorry? It's Vlastimil.
Vlastimil. Okay, I don't know why it says that. Okay, got it. That's what I was looking at.
You guys can then you're gonna just why don't you go through them and let them introduce themselves and then we can start it that way.
Okay, can you wait 1 minute? 1 minute. Or you can give a quick intro and give me 1 minute. That'll be right there. Hey, Ari?
Yeah.
Hey, do the intros and that'll buy me a little bit of time here and then we'll get started.
Okay, sure. I'll do that. So let's start with the end here with Paris.
Hi, my name is Paris Smith. I'm the CEO of Pinnacle. Pinnacle has started taking sports. I think we're one of the first companies, and I think we fortunately have kind of cracked that code with regards to what you were speaking about earlier, having AI. I mean, there's AI arbitrage. It's all kind of linked into the same thing. But esports is it's a big passion of Pinnacle, and I'm very grateful to be here.
Hi, my name is Anthony Strangia. I'm a Deputy Attorney General with the New Jersey Division of Gaming Enforcement.
Hi, my name is Vlastimil Venslik. I'm CEO of Odin. We started Odin like 5 years ago and they are focusing purely on esports, esports odds, risk management, iframe services. Esports is our passion and I think they are quite good at it.
Hi, and I am virtual. I'm Anthony God, CEO of Godhammer Gaming Group. And I'm going to host today's panel. So thank you guys for showing up in person. Sorry I couldn't attend myself. As you get older, sometimes it's difficult to travel because you're back, which is where I am right now. So thank you guys for coming. I know a couple of you. I've actually met with John several times in Paris. I've spoken to you, John. You're nice to meet you. The panel today is on a topic that's very near and dear to all of us, which is why is esports taking so long to catch on, right? That's the topic today. I will preface it by saying that, in my opinion, I do believe that esports wagering is going to be the next big thing. That being said, a lot of the people on this panel are working to formalize and standardize what those standards are to create the next big thing. And sometimes the next big thing is right around the corner, but not here today. And I think a lot of us are working to create what the next steps are and figuring that out in a field where a lot of people put a lot of money into it, and some people haven't seen the returns they expected, which I do think are going to be there. So I'd like to ask all of you, going from left to right. So my left to right is Paris, and then Anthony, and then John.
Vlastimil.
John Lester. To see where you guys are on the. Do you guys agree that esports is not as big as it's supposed to be? It's not as big as people thought it would be at this point. And do you think it'll get there? And what do you think are the steps? This is like 3 questions, right? What do you think are the steps that will lead us to get to that point down the road if you don't think we're there yet? And I'll start with Paris.
I think with esports, it's always a challenge, this question for me, because it is big. And the problem is, if you don't know, you really just don't know. And it exists, it's massive globally. Earth, like we were talking yesterday, if you don't know who the market is, if you don't know, if you've never been to a tournament, I've been to a number of international tournaments, and it's as big as an NBA finals game.
Mm-hmm.
There's the stadium is completely full. The crowd, you'd think they're a bunch of 10-year-olds from what you hear. It's actually people all of our ages. There is a massive following on esports. So as far as, how do you get it so it's, more prominent and getting to that point where we all expect it to be and hope it will be, it's starting with the regulators. They're doing, they're understanding it. If we're talking about the US space in particular, they're understanding the sport in a way that will make it fair. It will include the integrity. It will ensure that, you're not, that there's not fixed games, which actually in big esports events is very, very limited. Why? Because the prize pools are absolutely massive. But it starts with the regulators, and then you have the game providers and the data providers. They have a huge play in this. The problem is they're making it too expensive for how small it still is at this stage. So then as an operator, how do you pay $1 million a year for data when you don't have anybody playing in esports? So it's a whole ecosystem that has to come together, starting with the regulators, and that's in progress, going from the marketing and how do you get these players? You and I, most of us out here, won't know. Some of you do know, right? And it's to get those people involved in your organizations. It's recruiting people that are passionate about esports. That's the reason why Pinnacle's been successful in esports, because you don't have me trying to direct how we're going to grow the business. We have people that are true esports players and fans doing it. And then the next component is, how do you risk manage this? How do you make money? And again, the difference is, if I take a soccer trader, he can't trade esports. It's a totally different thing, totally different algorithms. And you do have the AI, you do have all the different machine learning groups and, all the different teams involved in that, and all the data points that there are. So, the next point is going to be, how can you successfully, once you have esports and you have the esports players, how do you make a profit from that? So that would be the big trick.
Yeah, I tend to agree with everything you're saying. I think one of the things that the thing that really stands out to me is charging $1 million in data fees for an event that doesn't really necessitate or the value isn't there for people getting the data, right? So it's sort of a catch-22, because you can't grow the space because the space is too expensive. It's sort of like what happened to Esports Entertainment Group when they paid that money for an esports, like a sportsbook license in New Jersey, and they couldn't really maintain operations because it was so expensive to pay for, without having the wagering to make up for that. Anthony, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what we've seen in New Jersey is about half of our authorized sports books do accept wagers on esports. In terms of esports wagers as a percentage of overall total wagers, yes, it is low, but we suspect the reason for that, and I touched on this yesterday, was that there overall is a small number of events approved. In New Jersey, I discussed this a little bit, but each event needs to be approved by our director prior to any of our sports books accepting wagers on it. Once an event's approved, it does not need to be reapproved. It goes on our website, and any of our sports books are able to accept wagers on that event. So the number of events that are approved for wagering is only increasing. So as a small percentage of volume of wagers will increase in the future. So I think we're on the right track.
And I gotta make an apology. I feel like I had the wrong agenda here, so I had the your wrong name, and I apologize profusely. I'm sorry. So, what is, in your opinion, how do you think? Do you agree with Paris and Anthony's assertions about the expense and the number of sports books that are using esports data?
Yeah, but I have to agree with both of speakers here because esports is huge. It's a global phenomenon. It's like everywhere. South America, even Africa, Europe, CIS, Asia. It's really huge, and it's coming to US. But it's coming to US. It's like saying like nuclear fusion is coming in the next 20 years, right? It's coming in 50 years already. So I think it will take some time. Definitely, we need to do some regulators education. We need to speak with people from New Jersey, from others, to expand the portfolio of leagues, of tournaments which you can bet on, because this is very important. And esport is very dynamic space. New tournaments are created every year, and it takes time for approval. So we need to work on a more robust processes, and maybe let's say that there is a checklist, and if tournament just fills those checklists, then automatically it's accepted or something like this. Because otherwise, it's too complicated for bookmakers to accept the wagers on esports. And again, it's kind of a chicken egg problem here in US. So everybody's saying esports volume is slow, so we want to invest in more. But if they don't invest more, it will be big, right? So like it's never-ending cycle. So there are a few things which we are trying to work on, trying to speak with regulators, trying to do the education, and speak with players here in the US and trying to explain them to that the esports is big globally. The numbers are here. We just need to invest in it.
I agree with that. It's some of those things can be very complicated. I'll opine myself on the question. My take on it is it's a lack of awareness. So for me, it's the ability to explain to the masses what esports is. So we have a lot of people that are interested in esports, but don't know that it's organized yet. So they'll have an understanding that there's an esport there's an esport. I'm hearing my own voice back. Sorry. That there's an esport event happening, and they follow Fortnite, they follow Rocket League, they follow League of Legends and Valorant, but they don't really know that there's leagues. And if they know that there's leagues, they don't know when those leagues are playing. And if they know when they're playing, they don't know who the people are to wager on them. They don't know the stars. And to a large extent, I think it's also about, and I said this earlier today in an interview, it's also about the ability for people to make a connection with the other players, right? So to a large extent in Asia and in Europe, the players are homegrown. The American scene hasn't really grown a lot of American players that have become famous yet. And one of the things that we're doing in esports, we're launching Esports Illustrated this Friday. And one of the, it's a partnership with Sports Illustrated. And one of the goals is to sustain the North American esports scene, to let fans know where to go, what to watch this weekend, who the players are, who the teams are, what are behind the stories. So by creating a central point of focus, we believe that is going to start creating that awareness that is missing right now, because part of going back to my thinking here is that lack of awareness is also a problem. So Paris had mentioned that the fees are expensive. So they can mention the processes can be very take some time, and the approvals are kind of difficult. And Anthony mentioned that the small amount of events are approved. I think all of these things are true, but I think at the base level, even maybe more important than those things, are the fact that we have to create the awareness that these things are happening. Who are the important players? What matches should we watch? Why is this match important? Who are the rivals? What teams, despite players shifted from one to the other? That sort of intrigue creates the passion. One of the reasons why people follow sports. So I think that part of all our journeys is to work together to create this space. And we are. I mean, we're kind of creating this in different bits and pieces, but I think it's all going to come together over the next couple of years. I had a conversation with Mark Cuban a couple of months ago, and he had invested heavily into esports. He thought it was a mistake. And my response to Mark was that I think that it was too premature at the time. And the infrastructures that we're looking for, both from a regulatory point of view, but also from just the industry media point of view, we're missing. The other factor that we're trying to solve as well is the publisher support. Right now, publishers don't want anything to do with it because they're scared of, anything having to do with wagers and video games. They're going to try to avoid. So they may not fight against it, but they're certainly not going to support it. So a lot of us are doing a lot of individual lifting to get that for these things to be resolved, and they are going to be resolved. So let me go back to asking questions instead of grandstanding. I apologize for that. Speaking of the publishers, why do you guys think, and anybody take this question, why do you think the game publishers haven't gotten involved as much as they could be, when this could support their games and promote a lot more activity and sales? I mean, somebody once told me, I think, that Electronic Arts makes $3,000 a minute off of FIFA loot crates. What do you guys think it will take to get the publishers on board?
Can I do it? Okay. So I think there is still this stigma of betting between publishers, because like betting in the US was not allowed, right? Like 5 years ago when the PASPA was repealed. So it's a new thing, and even publishers need to learn how to work with this. Their shareholders need to work and think about betting. We know that the few publishers, let's say, are not actively supporting betting, but are not against it. They are willing to sell data, sell some data points, and so on. So the space is opening. But generally speaking, some publishers are okay. Some publishers are really not actively helping and are really against it. And I think that it just needs to take some time for them to think about betting. We need to present them the revenue opportunities, and it needs to bring them some interesting revenue. Otherwise, it's just under their radar, and it doesn't make sense. And I think that I made a good comment that they are not actively in betting or wagering, but they have products like casino, like these loot boxes, right? Where it's just a pure casino. It's just not even certified RNG, and they spend a lot of money. Players spend a lot of money on it and buying the loot boxes. So this is maybe something for regulators how to tackle this, and maybe this can be a way how to speak with publishers and how to actually introduce them to regulation and to betting and casino. Anthony, what do you think?
I mean, for me, on the regulatory side, I can only speculate whether maybe hesitancy. If I had to guess, I would say it could just be fear of triggering any type of licensing for quality. Once you transition, we're talking about something all different in terms of like software. But once you transition into actually creating gaming software that's used for people to wager on, licensing requirements get pretty significant. So I could see publishers maybe being a little wary of that. But in terms of just third-party, sports wagering on esports events, a publisher, if they're, hosting their own tournament or they're acting as a league, there's certainly no reason why they couldn't approach us and, get their event approved for wagering by our sports books. They would usually do that in partnership with like one of the sports books that's really, interested in accepting wagers on the event and marketing and everything. Actually, just since I had the floor, I just wanted to get back to the last point about awareness that you had mentioned, because I think when I discussed the event approval process, because of that process, it really it can restrict our books a little bit in advertising for events, right? They're not going to have a huge like marketing expenditure to promote, wagering on an event, only to find out, oh, this wasn't approved. There was this hiccup. There was, the integrity policy wasn't sufficient or what have you. So I think as events get approved, when they come up again, like the following year, let's say, or whenever, it'll provide our books with more opportunity to promote those events. And that'll generate, hopefully a lot more interest in wagering.
Going off of yesterday's panel, which I thought was very interesting, communication is going to be a key. And with that communication, what is exciting about esports is there's everybody's playing a part. The regulators are playing a part, getting more information, understanding how it works, and then once they're comfortable, then the suppliers will also be comfortable. But you have the Esports Advisory Board for the Las Vegas Gaming Commission. Like, they're doing some phenomenal work to educate and let people understand and put solutions in place for integrity. And like leagues, having trying to get to a point where you have a league acceptance where there is almost a certified league, if you will, like the NBA, the MLB. Right now, it's very disjointed within the esports community. And I think once we can get all of the pieces of the puzzle together, it's going to be, more viable for people to have it. But the awareness, if you do it, you're aware of it. It's the people that aren't doing it that aren't aware of it, and they don't understand what the real potential is.
Paris, do you think there's people in the space, without naming any names, just based on what you said, that maybe don't know what they're trying to accomplish in the space, in the esports wagering space, because they're not involved in it?
Absolutely. Right now, people are offering, I hear all the time, oh, is esports just a fad right now? And if you put it up on your site and expect your MLB and NFL and NBA players to be all excited about your esports product, it just doesn't exist. The crossover is extremely minimal. So I think that they don't understand how to market it, who to market it to, how to trade it, what you should be offering. Odin does a great job of offering a very, substantial product, but some people just offer everything. And that's great, but nobody's betting it. So you have the product depth and it looks good and you can charge more, but it doesn't provide any value to the operator on the other side. So I think there's a lot of education and communication. Those two things keep coming up. And as we keep progressing and, getting more and more groups involved in this, even we're talking about GLI yesterday from a technical perspective, they're taking a role from a technical perspective to understand, how to follow and do the audits and the approvals of different things. So, the ecosystem exists. Now it just needs to kind of collaborate and align.
I've seen a lot of your interviews over the past few years, and you do a really good job of talking about the space. And I agree with what you're saying. There probably are a lot of players that shouldn't be in the esports wagering space right now. But I'll throw this out there to everybody on the stage. This is probably not the point of the conference, but I think it's an exciting opportunity. We're all growing it together, and I think that especially through Esports Illustrated and some of our other efforts, we should work to combine to create the spaces and the cooperation that we think as a group we can actually launch the space together. So one of the things that we're doing is that we are creating relationships with all of the leagues and the teams and the publishers, right? And through that and working with you guys, with Odin, with you guys, obviously we're working with the DGE for quite a while in Paris. We wanted to work with Pinnacle. There's an opportunity here for instead of us just talking about it, actually do it, right? And you guys have been doing it, but I think soon I'll reach out to you guys and see if we can get this moving. We have an Esports Trade Association committee as well that works with Seth Shore and some of the guys in Nevada to create a kind of a nationalized standard. We're working with GLI, and I really think we're right around the corner. So in a certain way, the topic of why hasn't it taken off yet is true. But it's why hasn't it taken off yet? But it's about to take off. And I'm going to go back to Vasilik and ask, what do you see similar to Paris? Do you see players that should be in the space, and what do you think the space should do about it?
Players that should not be in the space?
No. I'm sorry. I don't know if I could. Vasilik, right? Is that the way I'm pronouncing that correct?
Still no.
I don't know. I'm bad.
Yeah, I agree with Paris. There are a lot of bookmakers who just take their esports product from somebody and they don't care. They think that it will just work, but it's very complicated to do it. sometimes we see that the bookmakers have a very old UI, like the website, which is sports fan friendly. So they need to redesign it, or they don't, and then they are surprised that like we don't see any volume, and then like they are trying to explain that because your website is basically crap, and you need to do something with that. So there are different ways they can integrate iframes or do something else. And Paris touched the marketing, and I believe this is a big thing for bookmakers, because esports fans, you need to have a different marketing approach. You need to work with influencers in the space, support tournaments, teams, and to really build a presence. Pinnacle is they are accepting also on esports from the beginning. They are really well established in this space. And there are others like Betway who are investing in marketing for esports teams and so on. So it takes time and a lot of money. But there's one interesting thing about esports bettors, that they are very they're very rewarding. They can spend a lot of money with your brand when they love it. But if you make any mistake, they are very punishing. If you do anything wrong, then you see all the flame on Twitch or other streaming platforms, like why I cannot bet on this side, and like why you have this odds wrong, and so on. So and then it spreads, it's everywhere. So you need to treat the community well, do the proper marketing, and this is actually a very tough thing to do. And I see there are a lot of opportunities in this area.
One interesting thing with Pinnacle is we have a marketing partner that for our Toronto, Ontario license, and they are esports people, and when they market, they have tons of influencers, and they're a little bit in South America as well. But it's interesting because we asked them if we could do a crossover check on our platform with their platform, and somehow, because we are esports people that created the esports betting product, we have a great amount of respect from the community. However, this other group, we have zero crossover, because where they go, we don't even know it exists. That's why I keep saying you don't know what you don't know. And for our organization, being an esports passionate group, we still have that getting, but it's really but it's but it just goes to the point that it is that marketing component is really, really critical, and that's where the opportunity is.
That's a great point. Anthony, I was going to ask you a question.
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in about the question about why I would feel that esports wagering is maybe on the verge of breakthrough in New Jersey. During the early portion of the pandemic, where a lot of the sports leagues had taken a hiatus and were not actively playing games, we saw a major uptick in the total volume of wagers placed on esports. So it did to us look like there was a willingness on behalf of like the traditional sports bettor that is betting on these like land-based sports to actually consider placing wagers on esports. So we thought that was a really good sign of things to come, and that if that was successful for them, they were excited by it, and it had them learning about esports, or even that they were knowledgeable enough to begin with, that they wanted to risk money on betting on an esports contest, that they would do so in the future. So we interpret that to be a really positive sign.
So Anthony, going back to you, you obviously see a lot of companies come into the DGE. Do you think that the technological hurdle for new companies entering the space is difficult to resolve? And what are ways to bring new companies into the space if it's too high a hurdle?
Yeah, I think in order for me to answer that, I got to go over a little bit of background in terms of the types of esports wagering. Because I said esports wagering, but we need to discuss what that really means. So in New Jersey, there's really two types of esports wagering. There is the sports betting model, and then there's the skill-based model. In terms of the sports betting model, that is where a third party can place a sports bet on the outcome of an esports contest that they're not participating in. The contest can occur anywhere, like let's say like the League of Legends tournament in Paris, and somebody go, oh, you know what, I'm going to bet on this player to win this tournament. The other type of esports wagering is like more of the skill-based model. That can really take two forms. One of those forms is within a tournament context. So let's say one of our casinos hosts an esports tournament. Either them or the tournament, either the casino or the tournament host can pay a prize to the winner, and participants in that tournament can actually download an app created by the tournament host and actually place a wager on themselves to win. So it's a form of like peer-to-peer skill-based wagering, similar to poker. There's also, the concept of a skill-based machine, right? So like somebody, and I think a lot of people visualize that when they hear esports wagering, right? Like you're going to walk onto a casino floor and you're going to play like Call of Duty and you're going to kill the most Germans and win money. Those are permissible in New Jersey. We have skill-based wagering regs. Casinos are a little hesitant to have purely skill-based machines because they want that element of chance, to ensure that they're not going to get like worked over by somebody who's really talented. So I mean, there is that hesitancy. In terms of, now you had asked about like the approval, and the sports betting context, there's the event approval where we're looking at the integrity policy to make sure that event, isn't going to be like fixed in any way, and it's safe for our patrons to wager on. In terms of like technological like approval, that's really only in terms of somebody's coming to us like to present like a gaming device, like a machine, like a skill-based machine that we would have to test. Or we've seen, we've also had on our casino floors like a hybrid skill and chance machine where if you were more talented, you had a better chance of winning. But you might have like each level, like there was only this percentage of an opportunity to win this amount of money versus a lower percentage if you got a different level and something like that. So in those contexts, like our laboratory would approve that gaming device. And again, they're checking for all sorts of stuff.
Paris mentioned the concept of esports leagues and authorized esports leagues. What do you guys think about the creation of esports leagues to legitimize the event? So we know that the League of Legends, they have professional esports teams and esports leagues, but Paris, what you have in mind, would that be sort of like an open league for people to join or people to watch?
I think it's people to watch. For us, from an integrity perspective, you need those professionals, those professional teams. Just to kind of give a little bit of context, esports team has a group of people. They have a house that they live in, they have a trainer, and they play hours and hours. And these are actual professional athletes. And, so to just have this kind of random league, we would never want to take bets on that from an integrity perspective. It wouldn't even be an interest. Peer-to-peer is no interest in betting from our perception. Maybe there's a place. I think one point to make about esports, it is probably, in gaming conferences all the time, you talk about innovation. There's really not a lot of innovation.
Mm-hmm.
Innovation is crippled by multiple regulation requirements. Every state has something totally different. Your roadmap, your pipelines are totally different with that. You really can't do anything other than try to make sure that your compliance and regulatory requirements are up to speed. But esports, there's so many different levels. There's so many different components. There, again, we don't know what we don't know, but there's people that understand what is going to be the next big thing. And, as long as it has a few of the right components, there is a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's a $1 million question. What's the next big esports title? And it's very hard to predict it because it needs to have audience, it needs to have publisher support, and where there are eyeballs, people will bet on it, and it's always again a chicken problem. For example, right now, people want to bet on it, but the publisher, they are not supporting esports that much, so we are creating that matches, so you cannot bet on it. So it's always a question of publisher support, of regulation, and of leaks. And I have to agree with Maris that you don't want to accept bets on completely, let's say, newcomers to the space and or just open any leak to anybody, because there are big risks. You don't know if they just throw the matches or what's their background. And the professional players, professional esports players, they are really paid. They have millions of dollars of salary, and they don't want to go to matches. They want to win because it's their job. And this is really important that there is this level of separation between professional, maybe semi-professional players, and that's why the league needs to be improved. And it's always about the publisher, right? Because and we still speaks about esports about one major thing, but that's a really fragmented space where we have League of Legends, which is supported by Riot. They have very tight grip on all the esports leagues. They are organizing everything by themselves. On the other side, there is Valve with CS:GO and Dota 2. They said for CS:GO, they can do whatever you want. We can organize tournaments. If the tournament is, if the prize pool is high enough that you need to get approval from us, but otherwise, like, do what you want. So anybody can just do the esports tournament right now for CS:GO, and then probably you still need to have some integrity level. You don't want to invite, let's say, 30 teams somewhere from unknown countries to be there. So there has to be some level of regulation and some level of even auto-regulation and self-regulation in the industry.
Yeah, and I think the creation of additional esports leagues would absolutely correlate with an increase in the number of events that are approved for wagering in New Jersey. As regulators, we cannot approve wagering on an event that doesn't have a governing body and integrity policies. And something to be saying the event to make sure that it's fair, that there isn't an element of match fixing. I know that in New Jersey, like the Esports Integrity Coalition, they found several events that didn't have a governing body and kind of packaged them together and created an integrity policy, and we're actually able to get those approved for wagering. So it's the that there are new esports leagues, I think that was certainly helpful.
Last year, I have a question about mobile games. Can you guys hear me?
Yep. Okay,
go. What is your view on being part of the esports audience? The esports, the stable of the games is very small. So we have Valorant, League of Legends, Counter-Strike, those kind of games. But in Europe and in Asia, in America too, mobile games and esports games are becoming very, very popular. What is your view on mobile gaming as part of the esports scene?
Yeah, I can.
So this is where my team are the experts, and I'm the one who goes to speak in public. But mobile esports is one of those things that are likely going to be a next big thing, especially. But it's going to have, by the time it comes over here, I think it's going to be a while. But it's becoming quite large in Asia, in Europe, and we're hearing a lot of people that are requesting it. We get requests daily. When are we going to start providing more of this? For us, it's bandwidth and understanding. We're not going to offer something that we don't know intricately and just put it up for the sake of putting it up. But it is, I think it is one of the new up-and-coming things, and it's something that it's a very, very hot topic in the industry.
Yeah, Vlastimil, would you agree?
Yes, definitely I agree. And there are different mobile games like Free Fire in South America.
Oh yeah.
Mobile Legends in Southeast Asia, and many other mobile games which are popular, like PUBG maybe in India. It's huge. So it's definitely a topic, and it will be interesting to see how the publishers will actually start working on the grassroots, start working on the tournaments, and really push it to the more formalized esports space, because there are a lot of eyeballs, a lot of people playing it, like millions of players every month. Even for example for Wild Rift from Riot. So the publishers need to keep up with the demand, and then yes, it's us to create odds and to work on the new innovative product for mobile games, and there. I was always surprised that we have customers in Africa for esports. It's like, okay, but yeah, there is demand, and nobody has a computer in Africa, so they have mobile games, so mobile phones. They will play the mobile games there, so it will get there. Maybe it will be free 3D shooters, maybe it will be soccer or something like this.
Mhm.
But mobile will be definitely there, and it's definitely space we are actively looking to it, and thinking what we can do.
So, Anthony, from a compliance point of view, mobile games create a very hard to interfere with platform that probably makes compliance easier to for you guys to track, correct? Instead of using computers and all these things that you can hack into very easily, mobile phones are pretty secure.
Yeah, right. What I would say is, each of our existing sportsbooks has their own mobile app, and I think it's like 80% of total sports bets are placed through an app, so people can get a land-based brick-and-mortar sportsbook. In terms of mobile competition on esports and some type of peer-to-peer wagering, it's just the mobile version of what would happen in a tournament. So, I don't see a regulatory impediment to that, but it's something obviously we have to go through.
Yeah, I was looking on YouTube, and I saw that some of the Tetris competitions have millions of viewers for Tetris championships. So, I think part of the changing landscape that regulators and casinos have to get used to is the fact that the games themselves are changing, and they're appealing to a younger demographic who grew up with different games, right? So we always, for our company, because we are doing pretty much what you guys are talking about, we're also doing the mobile gaming for esports. Our premise has always been that because these younger generations grew up with games from day one and grew up with phones, a lot of them from early childhood, their expectations for what they expect from a real money video game, is what I call it, is very different. They expect some sort of agency. They expect some sort of choice. They don't like the randomness of just hitting a button because they don't trust things. So they have trust issues, which probably we all do by now, but they have trust issues with those kind of games that don't really state how you win something randomly. Is the younger demographic then is a question for all of you, because I think it just Ari told me we're running out of time. Is the younger demographic, are they going to create other challenges that maybe esports and peer-to-peer video games will solve that traditional casino products won't solve? Because one of the things that I run into a lot is casino operators don't really believe this is going to happen. So you have that sort of mindset where people think that you're crazy. But in your mindset, maybe I am crazy because I actually really believe this is going to happen, and it's almost inevitable. So what other challenges do you see the casino industry facing that you feel esports can solve? And that's the whole premise of the conference, right? So what do you guys think about that topic?
I think one of the things is the type of games. You were talking about the AI would be able to tell you what the next big thing is. Also asking the young gamers what they would like to see would be another great way to find out what the next big thing is. So I think games within the casinos. Yesterday, Jan was saying, if you think that younger players are going to get older and want to play the games that are in casinos, you're wrong. It's never going to happen. And she's completely right with that. So the creation of casino-type games, activities within the casinos, I think that's going to, the esports could make a path for some nice changes there and opportunities.
Paris, somebody said at G2E that they don't think they have to worry. I'm not going to mention who. A casino executive said they don't think they have to worry about changing the games because as gamers get older, they'll naturally gravitate to slot games. I just thought it was insane because that isn't going to happen. But Anthony and Leslie, what do you guys think? Do you agree? What other challenges are they going to see? Like, why can't the casino industry see this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a business decision of the casino operators. I mean, you drive down Las Vegas Strip, they obviously know what they're doing. But that being said, I think there is the caution that just because something has historically always worked doesn't mean that it always will work.
Right.
Things change. As you pointed out, as younger generations who've grown up immersed in technology are now like reaching the age of 21, they're going to have a different set of expectations for their entertainment choices than the older generations do now, right? Like I grew up before the internet, landline phones and everything. I'm sure some other people in this room did too. But there's a generation younger than me is still eligible to game, old enough to gamble, and yet they've grown up with like smartphones and everything. So I would hope that casinos wouldn't just look and say, well, you know what, as people have aged into slot machines in the past, they'll continue to do that in the future. And I would hope for the future health and growth of the industry that they would be open to some type of, esports, esports in general, whether it is like through the sports betting model or through like some type of skill-based model, even incorporating features of esports games into a game. I know you said it might not be that popular with, gamers, but with like a land-based gaming machine that, is based on chance. So, hopefully the casino industry, they say it and they start to come around. I'm personally optimistic that they will, but we'll tell.
I believe they have to change. They haven't changed the business model for 50 years because they created slots and just believe that people will just get older enough to play slots. But how long we have iPhones? Like 15 years, something like this. And I can open my iPhone and I have like much more games which are much more engaging than just playing slots. I can go to any online casino and play slots, just by a few clicks. I don't have to go to physical, to brick and mortar casino. So they need to change, and they will find out that the business model which worked before doesn't work anymore. The past performance is not a prediction of the future profits. So we've worked with a few partners. They created esports events in the venues. They organized a tournament there, accepted bets, and so on. But it's very hard thing to do because you still get the audience there, but they don't play slots, so you need to additional revenue streams, think about how to monetize that, and so on. So there are definitely challenges ahead, and it's not an easy thing to solve right now. Maybe the way is to create more engaging slots or get new machines, skill-based, even if the casinos, they won't like it because there is no RNG, there is no certain margin. You still have somebody can still go and then beat you. So these are the obstacles in the way, but I think those are good obstacles to work out, and it will definitely bring much more interactive fun and much more interactive engagement in the future.
And Anthony, I was listening to this one thing, and I always jump in here. And I would say an interesting phenomenon is what we saw, because I've been running this thing for now 7 years. And we saw last year when COVID restrictions were lifted, we had about 500 people that came to the CEC last year, which was one of our biggest events that we've had so far. When we started, I think we had 72 people show up at the first one, which was at Westgate years ago. Fear is a very strong thing. When the casinos start to fear that they're going to lose revenue because of lots of different things. And there's a lot of things that are coming at them. It's not just esports. It's artificial intelligence of the conference of the talk we just had prior to this one, where people are taking wagers and asking AI, what's my best odds? And if the other side, the bookmaker, isn't prepared to take that challenge on, then yes, you're going to have fear, and you're going to have a lot of issues. And some are prepared. Paris mentioned that she takes smart bets, and they know they have AI generated odds, and Vlastimir's program also is based on AI. So there's a lot of catching up that they have to do. There's this room should be filled with casino general managers and casino executives. But the thing is, until someone, until the bottom falls out, and excuse my French, the shit hits the fan, that's when they'll act.
When you were saying that, somebody had said, your comment about it's not going to change or you don't have to change it. Leadership, so I've been in the industry 28 years. I have to remain relevant. I have to listen. I have to take a chance on people and say, okay, you know better than me. Let's try this. If we, at Pinnacle, esports came to be because we had so many professional esports players. They're like, hey, can we throw esports up? We're like, yeah, $25 maximum bets. That's what we did for a very long time. And then it just kept picking up. But we took that chance. We listened to the people, and we had to evolve, and we had to allow new people to come in and guide us and tell us what to do. So if you don't remain relevant in your leadership, those people are going to fall over. And you see it all the time when people are being replaced in their roles of CEO or whatever it might be, because they're not evolving for their own businesses.
And that's a great way to talk about it, because there's a lot of, when we started doing, and I know we have to have questions, Ari, so we're going to switch over, but when we started talking about esports legislation here in New Jersey and then nationally, we were all the time questioned about, you want children to start wagering. And we said, no, the average gamer is 35. The average, video game player is 35. The enthusiasts go, my age, I'm 53. So there's a lot of expectations and preconceived notions of what that space is. And when we tell them that, the gaming market is a much larger market than the casino market, it's a global entertainment market. It's homogenous. Most people have no experience with this, so they don't know how to react to it. We don't know what to do. And then they saw previous companies, GameCo being one of them, that released products that are on the floor that maybe were a little bit ahead of their time or not properly developed. And then they shut the whole thing. Well, that market didn't work. That product didn't work, so none of this is going to work. But the reality is, it's like I already said, in French, I think we used the French language, that this is going to hit the fan one day. Those, as Paris said, those companies that are well educated with leadership will make that transition before the other ones do, and then everybody else will come on board. I believe. So, Ari, you said just questions. You want to handle the questioning part of this?
Does anybody have any questions in regards to? Sure. Just say who you are, announce who you are, and where you're from.
Hi, Ben Pepperman from Gamer Saloon, longtime listener, first time caller. Yeah, so I have a comment that kind of leads into a question. I think definitely you guys, there was an undertone of, and this is throughout the industry, game publishers have too much power. It's kind of hard to operate with all the rules. One trend is teams or content creators are creating their own studios. So my general comment is, why aren't whether the sports books or the casinos looking to either use IP that's old for games for esports competitions, or start to create their own simple games that they can implement online or in the casino? That's just my general comment. And the question is, for Anthony, really anyone can jump in. Is the model you described for esports tournaments in New Jersey is definitely very interesting. But again, like, the game publishers will never agree to that for the most part. So what's a model? Do you see a model where the game publishers would agree and buy into it to have esports tournaments live in casinos that other people can bet on?
Yes, I mean, that's happened, right? There was a Madden tournament in Hard Rock, I think, last year. And it was very, very popular. So yeah, absolutely. In terms of sportsbooks licensing the content, I know in New Jersey we have a rule, I discussed it yesterday. It basically prohibits a league from also accepting sports bets or being engaged in sports betting. So like, our sports books really aren't free to enter some type of like licensing agreement where they license the game and then they host the tournament and then also accept third-party wagers on it. They could host a tournament, let's say, but it wouldn't be open to wagering by the members of the general public. So, and that's a statutory rule. It's part of our Sports Wagering Act, and was, created to avoid the perception of potential impropriety in terms of, the league, which would have inside information, also accepting bets, right?
Oops, sorry. I'd like to add a little bit to that answer, if it's okay, Anthony.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I'd like to add to that, if it's okay with you, answering part of your question. Yeah, I mean, we without jumping the gun a little bit, we have actually gotten a major publisher to agree to a live event. I mean, we still haven't run it through the DGE. You guys started talking about it, but the publisher has agreed to do a live event, wagering event, and we'll announce it soon. And I think a lot of what's hindering on the other publishers is making sure that this one event works well. Because once you establish the one that works well and nothing goes wrong, no issues goes wrong, it's regulatorily compliant, the other publisher will consider it a safe space. And we've been working, not just our committee, but my company, and we've been working with the Esports Trade Association as well as the Entertainment Software Association, to make sure that this is going to go down the right way. So it's a very slow movement, and then I expect it to explode once all the issues related to compliance are resolved.
Hi, my name is Zach. I operate a sportsbook in Arkansas, and one of the things I've been curious of, I keep hearing over and over through the panels, it sounds like the publishers themselves haven't quite bought into wagering on their own product. I do agree that we have to educate the public, the awareness, we have to educate the regulators, but is there anyone working on trying to get more buy-in from the publishers? I don't know what this other gentleman said.
Yeah, that would be. I'm sorry, Paris. Yeah, I mean, like I just said, we are working with at least 3 publishers and got approval from 1. It's just going to take us a little bit of time. Sorry, Paris, I interrupted.
Oh, I was just going to say, it's, we're talking about the publishers. There's so much money to make. I don't think the publishers should be making money off the betting. The publishers have a product. They make a lot of money with that. When you create betting, just imagine it the same thing as the NBA was like, oh, we don't want betting. Without betting, there is a level of drop in the interest in watching NBA games if you're not betting. Same thing with NFL, same thing with baseball. So, they're selling their data to different groups, and then we have to buy that data. So, I think it is more of what Anthony had said. It really gets to, if they get too involved, then they have to go through the licensing process. So, to have that distinction between the publishers, they're obviously not totally against it. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a global phenomenon, right? Because there's Counter-Strike, PUBG, League of Legends, Dota. It exists. It's all there, and it's not like they're coming after companies like Pinnacle or Betway or Odin and saying you guys can't do anything with our information. So they see that there is a different ecosystem being created that's creating more interest into it. I just don't know how critical it is that they have a major role in this. We want them to accept it. We want them to be able to support having their the leagues that are involved with publishing to be certified and be able to be regulated better. But as far as being a part of it, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a complicated question. And let's be honest, like what's paying for bills for teams, right? It's a sponsorship from bookmakers, right? It's a lot of money coming from different bookmakers, and it's like in traditional sports as well, right? They have a big brands supporting soccer teams and so on in UK. So the same thing is happening for esports, and publishers see it, and again, like we are attracting more people to check the games, put the skin in the game, like enjoying it more. So there should be some role of publishers, definitely. Some of them are keen to work with industry and selling data or other things. Yeah, I agree with Paris that the data model is broken in esports. It's kind of a weird situation there, but yeah, the publishers should be involved. Some of them are, some of them aren't. and then they understand that this is happening, even if they are involved or not, because when the information is public, you can create odds and just put it to a website even without publisher, because it's like a public event. So for them, it's more reasonable to participate in this. It will just take time, and actually the things are really changing. We are speaking with a few publishers, and like 2 years ago, everybody was like no, and now it's okay, let's speak. So it's there is a buy. It will still take some time to explain it and then push it forward.
If I could just make an analogy outside of the esports context, when New Jersey initially tried to legalize sports betting about 10 years ago, all of the major leagues and the NCAA sued us. And we had like an almost 8-year legal battle, millions in legal fees in the U.S. Supreme Court case that overturned PASPA before we were able to accept, licensed sports books to accept wagers on the sport. So some of the concerns they expressed at that time were, well, if there's sports betting, we don't really see how we're going to make money off of it. And then on top of that, we're going to have increased scrutiny about the integrity of our events. So those are some of the concerns they expressed then. Whether esports publishers have similar concerns, I don't know. It's speculating, but it's certainly in the past, at least we've seen in the land-based context, there's been that hesitancy as well.
I greatly appreciate that. Just a follow-up, you kind of hinted on where I was going. So some of what I was referring to in terms of the publishers buying in, and forgive my ignorance if this is happening, but I know, you go type in and just want to look up integrity issues with esports, and you see, the obvious stuff being maybe match fixing and smaller level tournaments. But I'm more thinking of people running scripts to find flaws within the programming of the game, or finding like hidden wall, like for publishers. If that stuff is being found, is that something they're willing to work on and fix?
So okay, go ahead.
Sorry, Anthony.
Oh, no, I couldn't see the camera, so I'll answer after you. Sorry, apologies.
There is ESIC, Esports Integrated Coalition, and they are actively working with publishers and esports organizers and tournaments to explore and to find any ball hacks and any issues and any scripts somebody can be using. So there is this self-regulation or regulation in the industry already happening, because it's in everybody's interest to see that there is no cheating, no match fixing, and other things. And it's actually digital information, so it's easy to keep logs of everything. And believe me, that there were some issues, and everybody was able to analyze it like half a year ago and so on. And then they find the player, and they got a lifetime ban, and there was a prosecution and so on. So it's actually easier to find it in esports than in traditional sports. And if we speak about match fixing, yes, it can happen in some fourth tier Dota in China somewhere. Yeah, it's like the similar case if you will accept wagers on, I don't know, like third tier league somewhere in Bosnia in Europe, right? Because those are no professional players, so it's a big potential for corruption there. So it's happening, but it's not like happening in a bigger rate than in traditional sports.
And if there's a flaw in the game in itself, forget the operators. The gaming community is so unforgiving. They would absolutely, they would boycott the game. So I think that, the technology that goes into the games is exceptionally good. And, the money that they invest into the games is obviously good. But, the watchdogs are the actual players themselves that would go off like wildfire. There was, I've never heard of a situation. There was one of I think it was Dota. They made some change, and all of a sudden our volumes went whoop, because nobody wanted to play it. They're all pissed off. It is a very unforgiving community when you make a mistake.
Yeah, I think the technology for us, the technology is something that we take a look at all these exploits. We use artificial intelligence to test the games in a million times in different ways that most normal people would never use it. Lastimil is correct. A lot of these, in Paris as well, the code is easier to track a lot of stuff where we couldn't track stuff outside of code. Like, for example, we ran a tournament 2 years ago where a university substituted pro players for collegiate players. And the only reason we found out, because we weren't using a platform that we controlled, was when somebody else snitched on another player. The player that got substituted out snitched. But using biometrics to check into games, which is something we're intending to do, we would know from the very beginning whether these players are who they say they are. And that's part of the challenge is getting these systems in place. We're talking about them earlier. The unifying theme here is establishing all the things that we need to get esports and peer-to-peer wagering to work. And once those things are established, I think you're going to see not just a revitalization of the wagering market, but a revitalization of the video game market. Because video game developers, if you're independent, you don't make a lot of money. You have a very hard time placing your stuff on the App Store. And this provides them an opportunity to create an entirely new kind of product. So there's a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of intention to move into this space, especially after a lot of these developers got burned on Web3 and crypto. This is the next big space, and I'm very excited about it. Very excited about it.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in and add one more thing because we're going to have to end this panel. But to wrap it up in a lot of ways, I actually had invited and have invited a lot of people from the publishing side of the video gaming and esports world. One of our people that came when we had the CEC at Luxor was Jake Moses, with Take-Two Media, as well as and in GTA at that time, a few years ago, actually pre-COVID, they had launched a casino within GTA, and he had this question that was posed to him. Well, is that an actual real casino where you could win money? And he was like, no comment. I can't say because we're not. They didn't basically want to embrace the ideas of gambling because in their world. In a gamer world, it still has a stigma, just like it had a stigma when gambling first became legal in the United States amongst boomers and Gen Zs. Everybody and you could probably attest to this, Anthony, because your dad helped open resorts in Atlantic City. So it was like, well, what is casinos going to do for us? And they're going to do nothing, is what the people said. They said they're just going to create more crime. It's going to create more problems, so we don't want it. And this is you're really facing that same issue when you're coming to this younger generation that has that stigma about gambling, that has that stigma about the casino industry, because they don't trust it. But it's been they don't know enough. So on the other side, I can say that on one side you have the gambling industry that's established, it's been around 40, 50 years, but they don't understand the younger people. And then you have the younger people that don't understand the gambling side of it, and that it is highly regulated, and that they are protected. And you have guys like Anthony Strangia that make sure that the consumer is being protected.
Thank you.
And this is exactly where we stand. And there's just a big misunderstanding, which is reasons why we created this event in the first place. But
can I say one thing?
Yeah, sure.
And I'm not going to give away too many secrets because you mentioned my father opening resorts with the first casino in Atlantic City. If you hear the stories of how they started those casinos and all the things that weren't there that needed to be figured out in a very quick period of time, it's not that different from what's going on now, right? Like they did make money immediately because there was a need, but they didn't figure out for several years how to handle all the complexities of what they were doing. And I think we're in the same space here.
Yeah, and you are looking, and you did look in your father's time when they first brought casinos to Atlantic City. You did have an element of crime that was already involved, and that was running, parts of the gambling industry. That didn't have the consumer protection in mind. And all of the pieces have been put in place. My event and our purpose with this and with Get a Global is to try to create this bridge of understanding between the different generations so that we can move forward in a safe environment. Mm-hmm. And I think I'd like to thank the panel today. I'd like to thank Blastonville, Anthony Paris, and Anthony Gowd for joining us today. We're going to be serving lunch in the other room. Anthony, you can go have a snack. It's around 3 o'clock.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there